Hi everyone, welcome to the event, The Big Shots in Travel. I'm Ankita and I have Koral with me today. Together we have been trying to create a community for people interested in travel and hospitality industry, and this event is a part of that effort. So we really appreciate that you're here to be a part of this really inclusive and you know uh, uh, a very community-driven event that we're trying to do. Thanks a lot for signing up and being here today. So we have four big shots from the LBS community. We have Deepak, Karan, Yorma, and Francisco. And these are our colleagues from LBS from different programs. And they have had certain experience in the industry and they have kindly volunteered to share it all with us. Now we want this to be an open, informal conversation. We do have certain questions to regulate the discussion, but we would really appreciate if you have your own questions and just want to jump in the middle of anything and strike a conversation. Don't raise your hands, just unmute yourself and ask the questions right away. Feel free to really take it forward the way you want, as long as we respect everyone. We just want all of us to share some knowledge and have a friendly discussion. And that's pretty much it. So let's get started with the chat. Can I request everyone, Deepak, Yorma, Francisco, and Karan, to give us a short introduction about themselves, where they're from, and about their experience in the travel industry. So Deepak, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ankita, for organizing this. Thanks, Koral, as well. So I'm Deepak. I'm a Sloan 2019, and I'm from India. My last role was Director Global Accounts with Make My Trip, which is a NASDAQ-listed travel technology company, about 70% market share in India, and is largely considered to be a pioneer for end-to-end travel services across India with about 70% market share.
That's great. Yorma, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name is Yorma. I'm an MBA 2021 from Germany. After my bachelor, which I've done in Germany and in the US, I joined Lufthansa in New York and worked in their business development and sales steering team, where I was responsible for like forecasting their sales, benchmarking the sales offices, and also working on new flight destinations. So for example, flights from Germany to Tampa and to Portland, I was involved with. And these kind of projects are super exciting because it's really, there are a lot of very interesting activities like route profitability and revenues and negotiating like code sharing agreements with other airlines to max out like the capacity. So it's super interesting. And then I moved back to Germany and joined Oliver Wyman, the management consulting firm. And there I then joined the transportation practice after a while. And within that sector, within the transportation practice, I've seen many different subsectors, but I mostly worked in railway, but also a little bit of aviation. And yeah, but actually as a consultant, you are more on the customer side also. So you are like 80, 90 flights per year, like 150, 200 hotel nights. So actually you learn also still a lot about the different processes, and you notice the smallest differences in customer orientation. So also very, very interesting.
Well, that's brilliant and very, I must say, it's like you've done quite a lot. Like your experience talks about itself, and thank you so much for coming here. And then next, can we have Francisco, please?
Hi, I'm Francisco Keller, MBA 2021. I used to live in Argentina, and I have two types of different experience in the travel industry. I used to work at an airline. I worked at LATAM Airlines for about 3 years in Argentina and for a bit in Chile. Mostly there I did management control, some project management. Reporting closely to C-suite and helping them analyze different problems and try to streamline operations and revenues as much as possible. After that, I moved to Despegar. Despegar is an online travel agency. It's the largest OTA in Latin America. And I was very fortunate to join like 9 months before it went public on the New York Stock Exchange. So that was a really fun ride. I joined a very small team of 5 people in the bundles and packages business unit. And by the time I left 2.5 years later, we were about 30 people. And it turned into like the cornerstone of the company strategically. So it was very fun being there. My role was not very defined. I did a lot of planning, business intelligence, and business development, figuring new revenue streams and how to develop the business as much as possible.
Lovely. So we have two people from the airlines. That's good. And a lot of conversations have been happening around airlines these days. So it's good to have you both here. And next, can we have Karan, please?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for being here. So my name is Karan, and I'm an MAM 2020. It's the first year of this program. So I'm coming in here with significantly less experience than the rest of them in some ways. I've worked in the travel industry for about 2 years full time, and I've worked in a family business, which is called CR Tours and Travels. And so this company was started by my parents about 32 years ago. And so although I haven't worked full time, I've sort of been involved in travel growing up and throughout my life. And what we essentially did was like Make My Trip in some ways, we did end-to-end travel solutions on a much smaller and niche scale. And so we worked much more closely with our clients. And we did things like corporate ticketing, tourism, holidays, meetings, incentives, weddings, and sort of the whole end-to-end travel package. And yeah, would love to talk more about it.
Lovely. So anybody who wants to visit India anytime soon, Karan is the person. Wonderful. So I think we have a good mix of people from a family business, airlines, OTAs. So I think it's going to be a great discussion. So if anyone has any questions before we move forward, please feel free to ask any of the questions right now. If not, maybe Koral can take it forward from here. Koral, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. So let's start with the first question. Okay, so maybe we can just start from the question, what was the best part of working in a specific company? Maybe Yorma, you want to start?
Yes, sure. So at Lufthansa, there were really like two things that I really enjoyed. So first of all, everybody there was super enthusiastic about traveling. Lufthansa, like most other major airlines, they give a lot of benefits to their employees. So for example, I don't know if you heard about ID90 travel. So you get like 80 to 90% discount on airfares. So we could fly from Frankfurt to New York for $65 in economy class. So yeah, many of our colleagues spend their free time traveling around the world for little money. And secondly, in aviation, it is very common to have international rotations. This is also something I really enjoyed about the company. So when I now check in with my former colleagues, they're still with Lufthansa, but at very different locations in Shanghai, Tokyo, Frankfurt, Munich, San Francisco, Vienna. So it's extremely internationally flexible. And in the consulting part, what I really enjoyed is that I can actually see many different subsectors. So not only do aviation, but also do railway or work with hotels. So in consulting, I had more flexibility in terms of like travel subsectors, which I also enjoyed a lot. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that. And Deepak, maybe you have something to add?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Koral. So Make My Trip the best. I had like three things that I wanted to share with all of you. It's a very young company. And that is actually true for travel in general. I think the average year for average work experience and the age for people who are working at Make My Trip was about 26 years. So it was a very young company. And that rubs on to you as well. I mean, irrespective of your hierarchy, that energy sort of seeps into your personality, the way you work, the way you enjoy. And so we were literally living a life of, work hard, but party harder. And the parties used to be really, really wild because you can imagine that, for about 2,000 people, that was the place that they spent most of their waking hours. So they wanted to party hard and you had to keep up. So that was one. The other thing that I found fascinating working there was the cultural piece. So both from an India perspective, India is actually like 30 countries put together. And even my role was global. So I had to deal across cultures. And it's fascinating how, the nuances of people's mindsets are different, but everything unites because of travel. And that is something that I really enjoyed. And the third thing that I enjoyed at my trip was the pace of it. So I've worked in previously in consumer goods with GlaxoSmithKline and in retail as well. And I personally feel that 1 month in travel is like a year in another industry because so much happens. So you're constantly testing hypotheses, A/B testing. You're doing new things. Today you're going in one direction, and then you get a feedback or a signal from the customers, and you go the other way. So it's a lot of being agile on your feet, constantly innovating, constantly reinventing. And these were the three things that I loved the most.
That's great, Deepak. This brings this question to my mind, as in, what were the three most important things that you learned from your experience there? I mean, anybody of you could add. I mean, yeah, Deepak, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, for example, one of the things that I learned is do not assume what you think the traveler wants. You need to test your hypothesis. I think that is a very important thing. So, for example, you would think that, for example, say a meal type, okay, say breakfast free, or no, or a room plan without breakfast, for example. So you may have a personal opinion that breakfast free will do better than an all-inclusive package, but you need to test it out. So this was probably one of the things that, and you do that with an A/B testing. So I think one of the things that I definitely learned is data is king in the travel industry, and definitely go with your hunches on framing hypothesis, but then test it out.
Perfect. And Karan, maybe, yeah, Francisco,
sorry,
please.
I have a quick comment on that, following up on Deepak's meal plans. Funny fact, we at the online travel agency, we try to figure out how to sell hotels better. And so apparently there's also cultural differences between a similar region. So for Brazil, it's important for them to see that the meal is included, and it does have a benefit. You sell more, and you're able to make more money off of it than in the rest of Latin America, where having a breakfast included isn't really a big deal. So like, just fun fact, we did test it a lot, and in some places it works, in other places you have to roll it back. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think yeah.
Sorry, just to add to that, yeah, I think even within the Indian market, it's very, very similar. There's this big notion of wanting it included. So even by going the extra mile and having a half board or full board, which is with lunch and with dinner, it's just sort of it's sought after a lot more. And just so it's very important to understand the market in terms of these very small sort of aspects like food. And you would think that people would want to go out and explore it, but there's some markets where they would actually rather eat in the hotel and have a very fixed sort of diet, and then they choose to enjoy a different part of their holiday. And so those are the sort of very subtle differences that you need to be aware of throughout the industry.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. I think apart from the geographical, parameters, it's also important to understand what kind of services you as an entity provide. So if you're in hostel, you might not think about having meals included, but if you're in a hotel and that to a 4-star or 5-star, then you definitely want to deliver that. So I mean, great inputs on that point. But maybe what, Karan, because you come from a family business, what do you think were the most important things that you learned working in the travel business?
Well, I think the most important thing I learned was that travel is a 24/7 business. So a lot of times you may do the needful, you've designed your package and you've sold it and you think, okay, great, this is done. Just to get a call 4 or 12 or 2 days later saying, there's been this issue and what do we do now? How do we come back from this? So it's never really finished till it's finished in travel. And you need to always sort of be alert. You need to be able to follow up with your clients, see how everything is going, and that sort of sense of constant monitoring and being with the customer along his journey. Really key to being able to retain your clients and to give them a sort of experience that they will enjoy for a long time.
Wonderful. And I think Francisco, because you come from a different background, I mean, you were a consultant. Do you also hold the same opinion that, you'll always have to be on your toes if you're in the travel industry, or do you have a different opinion?
I think, yeah, I mean, touching on some of the similar points, I think it is a very dynamic sector, even though, like, even in aviation, which is a mature industry, I would consider it to be very dynamic, since you're constantly trying to optimize and copy or improve upon what the guy next to you is doing. So you're always flexible to changing things around. So yeah, definitely very, very flexible. I think also something very unique about travel is that it's mostly composed of tribes. So like there's a lot of diversity within each company, even if it's an airline or an OTA or in general. I mean, you need a lot of different people working together to offer a type of consistent and great service. And so it leads to a lot of collaboration. I think is one of like the main points you need to develop in order to be successful in the industry. Yeah, and humility. The guy next to you might be better at doing something that you don't know how to do, so you need his help. Don't be a jerk. Don't piss him off. You're gonna need the tech guy or the more marketing guy, or you're gonna need them all to be able to pull it off and give the customer the best experience.
Great. Actually, Karen, you said something very interesting before. You talked about the relationship with the customer, with your client. So maybe Jorma, maybe you want to elaborate more or to share with us how do you describe the relationship with the client, the importance of the relationship with client, with customers, but please focus on the travel industry, because as we all know, travel is all about people, right? Without people, we have nothing basically. So how do you describe this unique relationship with the clients?
So do you mean the relationship between a consulting firm and the travel client, or between the travel company and the end customer?
Both.
Both.
You
okay.
can focus on both. Yeah. From your experience.
Okay. So I mean, yeah, when you work for travel clients, you actually do very similar work than people within the industry are doing. So, for example, you work on specific projects that they don't have right now a function for. So, for example, what some colleagues of mine did, they did the capacity planning for standby aircrafts, who are basically emergency aircrafts. And like this kind of responsibilities were not really within one of the functions, because it's rather like a niche topic that spans over a couple of months of like project analysis. So they sourced it out to a consulting firm. But like the type of work you do is really similar to what you would imagine if you directly work within the sector. Something else that was very interesting is we, for example, developed a hotel chain from scratch for a government. So that was a very different kind of work, because you don't really work for a travel company, but you work actually as a public sector project, because you work for government. But yeah, you really get to think about like a greenfield hotel chain, how to like which brands do you want to offer, and which locations, etc. It was also very interesting. So yeah, but most projects are really similar to the work that I would perform within a Lufthansa or a Marriott hotel group. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Deepak, maybe you have something to add?
Yeah, sure, Coral. I think from one of the metrics that gets measured in an OTA is the Net Promoter Score, which essentially is the sort of reflection of how well your customer is, or your end user is sort of, being an ambassador or a promoter for your brand. I think at Make My Trip, we obsessed with the Net Promoter Score, going to the extent of sort of analyzing why some things are working, why some things are not working, what can we do to improve the experience. And then once you sort of get a thread from these feedbacks that you get, you then sort of tweak your, your experience. You have honest and open, discussions with your partners, like Yorma was just saying. Marriott, for example, you go with the Net Promoter Score of Marriott and have that as one of the talking points in the meetings that you discuss for the business. You keep your entire effort centered around how the customer is experiencing the service on the ground. And, usually you ask this a couple of days after the whole travel is over. Like Karan was saying, it's not over till it's over. So once that is over, you get that sense from them on what is it that you can do better. And this is like a flywheel that keeps getting better and better. And that's how you gain traction in the market.
There's one thing to add here. Also, and what I observed is also similar to Deepak. It's extremely data heavy, so that this forces you to be extremely agile. So I could see at Lufthansa exactly for which price other airlines sold how many tickets, because it goes through like these Amadeus, like these central booking platforms. There's a trend now away from that, like to more like direct sales, but a couple of years back, you could see everything. I could see how many flights go from Dubai to Frankfurt to New York, and see the prices, and I can react. And same for, you have customer feedback, you have all the data. So because your competition is super agile, you have to be agile as well. I have to say, I think the trend that the airlines, they tried hard to make actually everything now a bit more intransparent. They go to direct sales that you can't really see anymore what others do. And they're like a couple of different things that they're now trying to defend their market position a bit more. But yeah, it's similar from what Fran and Deepak has said.
Coral, just a quick one, just a 15-second plug. I think one of the other things is the user-generated content on reviews and ratings, and this is big in driving, traffic to your website and future bookings.
So,
sorry, quick. I agree also with Deepak on the NPS. Like at all of my roles in travel, I've always, part of my bonus, a significant part has always been NPS. So it's, I mean, the whole company has it as a top part of their incentives to work on that any way they can. So I mean, there's a monetary incentive on the employee side also to make it work better.
So I have a question. So basically in this specific session, we are hosting some people who may be interested in the travel industry or looking to secure a job in the future in the travel industry. So from your perspective and experience, do you think that a person that wants to be part of the travel industry should be passionate about the travel industry, should be very good with numbers, with data, with analytics and stuff, should be one who is a very who has an experience with the customer facing roles, or maybe other stuff? Like, can you recommend on what kind of person Do you think it's better to be as part of the travel industry? Karen, let's start with you.
Okay. I think you touched on really the key points over there. So each one of those is, I think, super important in being in travel, especially the passion for travel. And I say that because I think that travel is the kind of industry, at least for me, where I had to constantly keep learning because there's so many products out there and so many options. And as a travel agent, your value is really being aware of all the products that are out there and understanding how you can link that back to your customers. And if you don't really have that passion to go out and keep learning and meeting people and reading about the kind of offerings there are, it's very hard to see what will work. I think analytics is super important, and so for me, that's actually why I'm here at LBS now. When I got into my company, the amount of data we collected was very limited, and it was not very clean, and we were not very agile. And so my entire goal of going about this program was to understand this exact analytics sort of portion of it, and sort of see to what extent I could leverage that and apply it back into the travel company, because we have data in a very limited way. And I sort of felt that the more data you have and the more skills that you have to apply those with would sort of create a very direct link to the amount of revenues and profits that you could then generate.
That's great. I think this is such an important question that I would love to hear from all four of you on this one. So maybe Francisco, what are your thoughts on this question?
So yeah, I guess, as I mentioned earlier, I think travel is composed by a lot of different types of people who have to work consistently to offer a great service to our customers. So I would say that you don't specifically have to have all of them. You can have some of them or none of them and just make it work. I mean, there's a lot of different places where you can contribute to being part of the service that's being provided. So I wouldn't say, like, not necessarily you have to be a numbers genius, a great analytical guy, or super into communications and marketing or customer facing. I mean, you can be either one of those things and still have a spot at one of these big companies offering this these services. But I do agree with Karen. I think passion and liking what you're doing is very important, as we've mentioned a lot earlier. Being flexible and learning and changing what you're doing is part of the DNA, I think, of any travel company. Is, you're not fixed in your ways. So definitely being passionate about what you're actually doing, I think, is very important, regardless of the skills you have. I'm pretty sure there's a really wide array of people in travel. People that study tourism, people that didn't study anything, who are still working in travel. So I mean, there's a ton of different roles. I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely for everyone, if you like it.
Sure. I mean, we hope it's for everyone, for sure, because everyone's interested in getting into this industry. Yorma, do you have anything to add?
I kind of agree with Karan and Francisco. I think the most important thing is that you are also a passionate travel customer, because in other industries like banking, you don't have to be an enthusiastic banking customers to be a happy banker, But if you work in travel, like, you should, because, like, first of all your colleagues are passionate about traveling, and cultural fit is very important. Plus, a relatively large portion of your compensation comes in travel benefits. Not in every company and subsector, but at least in, like, hotels and aviation. So I think this is really the one key characteristics that I think is very, very.
We can't hear you, but if you can hear us, so I have another question. Do you think it's also relevant for OTH, for example? OTAs?
I think we
lost him. So maybe Deepak or.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So So just to add to one point that I think is important for, do you want to go to Yorma? Can you hear us? You want to complete that?
Yorma, can you hear us now?
Yeah, of course, I can hear you. Yeah.
I think. Okay, now you're here. Perfect. So I just asked if
well, the OTA. Okay, I thought it was for the OTA guys.
Yeah, no. So I thought we had lost you. So I thought you wanted to complete, but I can continue with what I was saying. No problem.
Please.
Yeah. So basically, just to add to what Karan, Francisco, and Yorma were saying, I think one point that I would like to add to what's the characteristic of someone who wants to work in the travel industry. And I mean, I'll give you an MBA answer, right? It depends on what role you play. But I think one thing that definitely is there is the energy, because I looked at roles in other industries, and I can say this without a shadow of doubt, that travel industry requires you to put more energy into any role that you're doing. Because it's super intensive, it's growing fast, the feedback loop is shorter, you need to innovate. So it's just that any role that you do, probably you'll have to put more energy than a traditional industry like, say, a consumer goods or technology or something like that. The other thing that you asked about the OTA, what was the question, Coral, on specifically to the OTA on this?
Yeah, because Yorma said some very, very relevant things about other companies. I mean, not necessarily digital companies or online companies. Yeah. I was just curious to know if it's also relevant for OTAs, because, for example, in Expedia, you can find, I don't know, thousands of employees, right? And do you think that each and every employee is passionate about travel, or each employee should be passionate about travel? That was the question.
Yeah. So on this specific point, I actually slightly, have a different view. I mean, you may be in, say, for example, I was, for example, part of supply, where you need to be data centric, but then you have a lot of people who are, on the tech side, for example, or even on the product side or the category side or the revenue side, who are geeks, who don't like traveling so much. They like the analytics part of the business. So it actually, to be very honest, it depends on the role that you're doing. But obviously the combining theme would be that you need to be passionate about the traveler who's using your service. And if you put yourself in their shoes, you'll always make the right decision.
Right. So it's about like focusing on your customers, as we're always taught. Cole, please go ahead. You had something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you, but it's interesting to think about what are the specific roles that, what are the specific roles that you should, if you're super passionate about the travel industry, what are the specific roles you want to do? Is it product, is it marketing, sales, or some other roles? But maybe we can continue to the next question. Ankita, you can take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just wanted to ask all the participants, if you have any questions, please come up. We are almost done with more than half of the session, and we want to hear from you as well. So please feel free to jump in if you have any questions. I mean, anybody.
Question.
Abdullah, yes, perfect. Thank you.
I just have a question regarding the potential for MBA students in the travel industry, and what do you guys see the best way in leveraging this the MBA to find a role in the industry, in terms of, do you have any specific recommendation in terms of, I don't know, classes, I don't know, like generally?
That's a great question. Who wants to take it? Who wants to take it?
Because the industry seems not inclined to hire MBAs. That's why I'm asking.
Why are you saying it, by the way?
Because I've had a few coffee chats with airline executives, and they were like, it's either you have an experience with the industry or you're a consultant. So what do you guys think?
Please feel free to take it if you feel comfortable with the question.
Yeah, I can give it a try if you guys want, and hopefully some of you can back me up later. But yeah, I think as I mentioned, travel is quite broad. So I think like the airlines and some of the more consolidated aggregators are more likely probably to have roles for MBAs and appreciate an MBA. Where it would be easier to go into. Hotels maybe not so much, and you know, further down the line, even more fragmented parts of the industry like experiences and activities, probably even less so. That would definitely be very off cycle and very you know, networking your way in. I know Expedia has been hiring MBAs in the last couple of years. Not quite sure how things are going now with COVID. So I mean, probably a tough time to break in right now. But I do believe, I don't know, like at least from my experience in Latin America, a lot of the top execs all had MBAs. So like from looking up, you know, I would see the people above me having gone to business school, regardless of any prior experience. Some of them had been in consumer goods, some had been in consulting. But yeah, I guess definitely like the skills required by an MBA are going to be applicable to different parts of the business. And you know, similarly, another way in, I think, is also I don't know, if you did planning at your previous company, planning for an airline or an OTA is quite similar to planning for any other type of company. So like more role specific roles might be also an easier transition in, and then moving inside towards something you want more customer facing or something a bit different. I don't know, someone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, so I have a few thoughts if I can share.
Right.
Yeah, so Abdullah, a couple of things on, you know, trying to break into the travel industry. One is it's very region specific. What is the growth that the region is experiencing? Typically, I see that, you know, in low growth areas, the talent pool is such that you don't need too many new people, and you know, people are risk averse, so they don't take a bet on new talent. But if, for example, like Francisco was saying, growing market like LATAM or say Asia Pacific, you will get more opportunities. So it's purely on the region where you are trying to break in. The second thing that I feel is a great you know, competency is language actually. Because, for example, if you're in supply, you need to be speaking to the partners. And if you know, for example, say Arabic or German or French or Spanish, you can definitely take up some roles which are customer facing, which you can leverage your language skills. I think these are two things that are that I would say that you can look at. And from a class point, I think from a course, two things. One is there are a lot of case studies on travel industry because it's such a saturated industry, and you have the Accor case study and a lot of other case studies. The other thing is, you know, take courses like say product management, which give you a sense of, you know, because everything is digital now, so you can get a sense of how you can, you know, think like a product guy, irrespective of which role you're doing in the travel industry.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Abdullah. And Francisco and Deepak, thank you for answering. Do you guys have any other question? Anybody from the audience? Otherwise, we can go ahead.
I have a question actually, if nobody else has.
Perfect.
And it had something to do with the post that you had put up just before this, which was the Airbnb CEO saying, I think he made the statement that we will be using our screens more for work and traveling for fun, where it used to be the other way around first, and we used to travel for work and we used to look to our screens for entertainment. And just wanted you guys' thoughts on if you agree with that, if you think that work travel will take a big dip, or if you think that it's something that's going to recover fairly soon.
So by work travel, you mean business travel, right?
Yeah.
Are you
yeah,
referring to
business
the post that okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do agree with the post a bit, if you take my personal opinion, because before this entire situation happened, a lot of people felt like if you had to, get on a meeting or do something of that sort, most of the people would just travel to the place and then meet people in person. And now that we have been forced to do it in a different way, we are probably realizing that it is maybe possible to a certain extent. I don't see this happening for every little thing. I mean, we run a hostel and we are trying to utilize, we don't have people over right now for sure, because it's banned right now. It's illegal. But then we are utilizing this time to gain some sort of market share in terms of expanding our market share by having more people on board, in the sense that we are doing all these online campaigns. We want people to know us, and we were not focusing on it a lot before, maybe because we had good occupancy and we were happy with it. We didn't really think of going that way. But now that we are in this entire situation, we are trying to focus really hard on having people stay at our place instead of others, because when this everything settles down a bit, people would want to travel, but they would want to travel to places which are good, and we want to be in that list. So we are trying to utilize this entire situation now. And with respect to business travel also, I think I think a lot of it sometimes is unnecessary. Businesses are taking sustainable routes, and before COVID happened, even before that, a lot of companies were trying to organize online meetings just to make it more sustainable on the planet, or avoid traveling if it helps. And now after this, I think it's just going to be a lot more focused on that thing as well. I mean, if any of you guys want to add something on that, but those are my inputs.
Yeah. Can I go?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think business travel doesn't recover from this. Leisure travel probably will, and I say this because COVID is an accelerant in terms of disruption. I think if you look back at the past, disruptions, say 2008, advertisers moved out of the print media and they never went back. And so a lot of people on the business travel will actually start questioning internally, is this important? Can this be avoided? And so you would probably see some sort of a recovery, but not to the level that it used to happen. People have found out that usually you go and you travel to be in front of your customer face to face, because you can build trust, right? But now when you see that a thing like COVID comes along and you can continue with most of the things by continuing digitally, I see it very difficult for business travel to recover from this.
I have a quick thought also on this. So I think, as Deepak mentions, business travel is definitely going to take a dive. And when I look at it as a whole industry kind of thing, business travel usually subsidizes a lot of leisure travel, and that's a main reason why we have cheap tickets. So that will also, I think, feed into what Ankita was saying, that people will spend more going to nicer places and probably more local, just because going abroad for a longer vacation will now be more expensive. So you might do one trip a year somewhere abroad on a more expensive ticket, and then do more local kind of stuff, where maybe your price point isn't as high. That's kind of how I see it slowing down a bit, or changing who's your customers, basically.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, I think we have around 10 minutes more. So we really want to hear from you about your future plans, as in after the course, do you want to go back to the travel industry, or are you looking to explore other sectors? What's your take on that? Francisco, maybe you can take a
Yeah, but if I can just add one more thing. So if you can answer this question, and also if you can just share maybe final tip for people who are looking to secure a job in one of the industry's sectors. Yeah, and we can just start from Francisco and then go to Deepak, Yorma, and Karen.
So sharing tips for getting in? Or
any tip for people?
Any tip, yeah.
And also Ankita's question.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess on the tip side, stay positive. I think I mean, right now, I think the big players are gonna come through this, so they're definitely gonna be in there. Maybe some of the smaller players who are already around for a while, not such a good choice, since they probably rely on their income to make it through, and that's not coming their way. But even some smaller firms that might have secured some funding, this might be a right time for joining a smaller startup that's already secured funding in the space and is ready to disrupt or to provide an alternative solution. I do think there's still a lot to be done in travel. Me particularly, kind of travel was my plan B, my safe bet coming out of this. Right now it's not so safe anymore, but but yeah, I'm kind of interested in trying to find something in media and entertainment, but I have started a part-time internship on a travel platform that I'm trying to help out with right now. So yeah, it'll be virtual travel for the time being.
Which one, by the way?
It's called I Am the World. It's just started. They posted it a couple of weeks ago on.
Yeah, I saw it, right, on Career.
Yeah. It seems familiar. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank
you. You want to go next? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Francisco.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think. I think just to add to what Francisco was saying, Coral, I think this crisis is an opportunity for the bright minds. I mean, think of the travel industry. One of the reasons why it's tough to get in is because, things are more of the same is happening, right? I mean, and people want experience of past. But now, I think going forward, post-COVID, you would need innovation. And my one tip to people, fellow LBSers, is that we are bright people. We can innovate, and that one tip that I leave with you is to show that you can come up with new ways, new thoughts, new energy, and new ways of traveling, because that is what the industry needs going forward. It won't be more of the same. It would be more of something new. And if you can be that change agent and communicate that you are the right person, I think you will do well. That's my tip.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Innovation, passion about the travel industry. Yeah, these are based. I mean, also from my perspective, the main things. Yorma, you wanna
Sure
with us?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. So I can imagine going back into the industry, but more likely in a consulting advisory function or as a private equity investor. More likely than direct for a travel company. In terms of tip for people who want to join the industry, so of course, yeah, as has been said many times, right now is probably rather challenging. But the travel industry, however, is traditionally very good at scaling and sizing because it's a seasonal business. And I'm sure that next year, some of the companies who survive and come up with sustainable plans for the future are hiring again. And of course, some companies will go bankrupt. Some already have gone bankrupt. But this also then clears the space for new ventures, you know. And so I definitely think there will be opportunities. Perhaps this year internship is difficult. Perhaps a startup, but like the large players, rather difficult. But next year, I'm quite certain that there will be some opportunities. And you know, usually they don't come to LBS and hire like in a structural way, but it's a networking based recruiting, right? So like reach out to people on LinkedIn and via email, make sure that once there is the opportunity, you are the first person they email, you know. Yeah, I think then if you are stubborn, then you definitely find something in travel. I'm sure, even in a shrinking industry, there are opportunities, you know.
Yeah, I agree with everything that all of you guys have said. I think you've really just done all the points. For me personally, I'm a big fan of travel, and so I am looking to get back into it at some point. For me, the focus is right now to apply some of the things I've learned in analytics and look at how bigger companies use data and sort of ways that they derive insights and the things that they can pull out from it. And as for a tip, I think, yeah, travel is not going away. The beaches of Spain and Portugal are always going to be, you know, at the back of people's minds and things like that. So whether it be this year or next year, I think travel will come back, and people are not just going to sit back and forget about, you know, holidays and tourism. I think passion is very important. I think innovation is key. I think the industry is set for revamp, and things are going to change. And I think, yeah, it's just about finding those ideas, about being innovative, and putting yourself out there and taking a risk sometimes. Because I think that, like Jorma was mentioning just now, networking is very important. And as far as I've seen, the people in travel are just amazing people. They love to have a good time. They love to share information. They love to have a good laugh. And so I think there is a lot of scope to learn more about the industry in these times. And then when it's set for the recovery, I think there's a lot that could happen. So yeah, wishing all the best to anybody who's looking to get into it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We only have two more minutes, but I have so many things to say. But I can't share everything now. But I totally agree with all the things that you just mentioned. And thank you so much for all your insights and inputs and all the great stories. Maybe Ankita, maybe you want to say something before I wrap up? And then
yeah, I mean,
the last words.
First of all, I mean, we can't thank enough. I mean, all these guys who volunteered. I mean, there was really no need, but you guys came up. So thank you so much. And we are going to come up with a networking booklet. So, I mean, if all of you are interested in being a part of it, I mean, a networking booklet especially for travel. So we want to put in everyone who has been in the industry before in that booklet so that it is easier for people to connect with each other. So, I mean, make the most out of it. We will be planning more events in the future. Join us for everything that you can, and we would be most happy to host you again.
Yeah, thank you. So just maybe to add one more thing, Deepak, you talked about the opportunity, right? So I truly believe, I mean, I definitely want to be I'm already part of the travel industry. This is maybe for the next session, I will share my own story, but for now, so after the MBA, I also want to be part of the travel industry. And my friends, they used to say like, oh, Coral, you did all the way from Israel to London to be part of the travel industry. And then Corona, what a, like, but no, but I truly believe, and this is maybe the point or the bottom line, that the opportunity will come. I mean, we're going to graduate in a year and a half, in a year from now. And this is exactly the point where we will have to be super innovative and again, passionate. And then we will be able to do so many things. It can be either with an OTA or other online company or our own startup or something like that. So I really hope that we will be able to do that. The chairman of Expedia said, when there's life, there's travel. And he is totally right. So travel will come back. We will get this opportunity, and hopefully we're all gonna be the next big shots of the travel industry, like you guys. So guys, thank you so much for all your great things that you just shared. And for all other participants, we hope you got something out of today's event. And yeah, and we really appreciate your time and the involvement in the discussion. So thank you for that. We hope to have more events like that with small group of people, so we can make it more like a discussion, and hopefully in person in just a couple of weeks. Okay, yeah. If you have any feedback, please share it. You can just drop a line to our new email. And maybe last thing, and then we're finished. If you want to work with us in our team, we would love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out and suggest any suggestion that you have, and we would be very happy to have you on board. Yeah, I think we're done. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great week. And if you're in London, it's gonna be a sunny week, so be ready. And I think we're done, guys. Thank you.
Guys, reach out.
Thank you, guys.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Same for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for organizing, guys.
Thank you.
And thanks for organizing.
Great job, Coral and Ankita. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, guys.